We sold your apartment, Lucas, my mom said proudly. It's ours now, she smiled, in front of everyone. The next day, I watched in silence as they were handcuffed outside my building. My name is Lucas, and I'm 30 years old. I've always believed that hard work brings success. If you work hard enough, it has to pay off, right? If not, then why spend all those years working, sacrificing rest, pushing through exhaustion, and making smart choices, while others are having fun? This belief got me through university and the tough years of working multiple jobs just to survive. It got me to the point where I finally had something to show for all that hard work, my own place. For the first time, I didn't live paycheck to paycheck. I wasn't stressed about rent or constantly checking my bank balance. My apartment was proof of my hard work. It was a nice, modern place in a great area. I paid for it all myself. No loans or help from anyone, just me, and years of effort paying off. But my parents saw things differently. Growing up, I was always the independent one. I didn't ask for help, didn't expect anything from them. My younger brother, Joshua, was the favorite. He could do no wrong. They spoiled him, gave him everything, and always made excuses for his mistakes. If Joshua needed money, I was expected to give it to him. If he messed up, I was the one who had to fix it. It was exhausting. No matter what I achieved, Joshua was always the focus. Eventually, I gave up trying to change things. I realized that if Joshua wanted something, he got it, at my expense. If I wanted anything, I had to work for it. That's how things were, and for a long time, I accepted it. I told myself that once I moved out and started my own life, I'd be free of it. I was wrong. A few weeks ago, I got an amazing opportunity, an overseas business trip to meet some important people in my field. It was a huge chance for my career, so I took it. When I got back, I noticed a lot of missed calls from my mom, dad, and even Joshua. I felt something was off and answered my mom's call. "Lucas, you're back," she said, way too cheerful. "What's going on?" I asked, confused. "Oh, nothing," she replied quickly, "just wanted to check in. How was your trip?" I told her it was fine, but I could tell she was hiding something. "We have great news," she said after a long pause. I knew it wasn't going to be good. "We sold your apartment," she said excitedly. I couldn't believe it. "You did what?" I asked, shocked. "We sold it. It was such a hassle, anyway, but don't worry, we got a great deal." I was trying to process what she was saying. "You had no right to do that," I said, trying to stay calm despite my anger. "Oh, Lucas," she said dismissively, "Joshua really needed a car. He has things to do, places to go. So you sold my apartment to buy him a car?" "No, not just any car," she corrected, "a fancy sports car. He deserves something nice." I couldn't say anything. "You should have seen his face when he got it," she went on. "He said, 'Wow, Lucas finally did something worthwhile.'" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You understand," I said slowly, "you didn't have the legal right to sell my apartment." There was silence. For the first time, my mom sounded unsure. "What do you mean?" she asked. "The apartment was never yours to sell," I said. She didn't laugh anymore. "Lucas," she said, now sounding nervous, "what do you mean?" I looked at my watch. "You'll find out soon enough." I hung up. I sat there, gripping my phone, feeling the anger building up. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I knew there was no explanation that would make sense. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was deliberate. My parents had sold my home while I was away, like it was nothing, and for what? A car for Joshua. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. This wasn't just entitlement, this was theft. The worst part? They thought I would just accept it. I called my real estate agent. After a couple of rings, she answered, breathless. "Lucas, I was about to call you," she said. "Why?" I asked, confused. "You haven't checked your emails?" she asked. I pulled up my inbox. Over a dozen urgent emails from the agency. "I've been out of the country," I said. "What happened?" "Your parents came in last week with a buyer," she explained. "They said you gave them permission to sell." My stomach dropped. "They did what?" "They showed documents that looked real at first," she said, "but when I checked them, the signatures didn't match." I started looking into it. My heart raced. "And?" "They forged your signature," she said quietly. I closed my eyes and let out a slow breath. "I wanted to get in touch sooner," she said quickly, "but they told me you were in a remote area with no service. I had a bad feeling, so I didn't finalize the sale until I could confirm with you. But then the buyer started pushing, saying your parents assured him everything was legal." I swallowed. "Did the sale go through?" "No," she said firmly. "I held off as long as I could, but they were getting aggressive. I was planning to report it tomorrow if I still couldn't reach you. I breathed out slowly. They thought they had won. They probably thought they'd pulled off the perfect scam, but they had no idea what was about to happen. I checked my watch. It was late, but that didn't matter. Can you meet me at your office in an hour? I asked. Of course, she replied without hesitation. I hung up and sat back, staring at the ceiling. They'd forged my signature, lied to a buyer, and almost tricked me into losing my property. They had no idea their plan had failed. A dark smile spread across my face. This was going to be fun. When I got back to town, I had a plan. I wouldn't yell or argue, I'd let them trap themselves. The next morning, I met with my real estate agent. She had already gathered all the forged documents and notes about how my parents had pressured both her and the buyer. The evidence was clear. They're panicking, she said, sliding a folder toward me. The buyer was uneasy, but your parents reassured him everything was fine. They even said you were too unstable to handle your own money, so they had to take over the sale. I shook my head. Unbelievable. She lowered her voice. I also spoke to a lawyer. What they did isn't just dishonest, it's illegal. If they'd gotten away with it, they could be charged with fraud and identity theft. I smirked. They still might. Next, I went to the police. I wasn't sure how this would play out, but I wasn't letting them get away with it. I gave the officer all the evidence. Flipping through the documents, he frowned. This is serious. Falsifying a signature to sell property, this is a felony. I figured, I said calmly. He nodded. We'll need to bring them in for questioning. Good. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't warn them. I just waited. That evening, my phone rang. My mom's voice was frantic. Lucas, what have you done? I smirked. What do you mean? The police came. They said we committed fraud. How could you do this to us? I didn't do anything, Mom, I said, leaning back in my chair. You did it to yourselves. Her voice shook with anger. We raised you. You should be grateful for everything we've done for you. Do you realize how much trouble we're in? Oh, I do, I said calmly. You forged my signature, deceived a real estate agent, and almost scammed a buyer. That's not just trouble, Mom, that's a crime. She sighed sharply. It was for Joshua. He needed that car. You have everything, and he? I earned everything I have. I cut in coldly, and you tried to steal it from me. There was silence. Then, in a quieter voice, she asked, what's going to happen to us? I let the question hang in the air. I guess you'll find out, I said before ending the call. The next few weeks were chaos. My parents were charged with attempted fraud and forgery. They didn't go to jail, but they had to pay big fines and legal fees. The buyer, furious at being deceived, was thinking about suing them for wasting his time. Joshua, of course, was angry. You ruined everything, he yelled when we finally spoke. Mom and Dad were just trying to help me, and now they're in trouble because of you. I stared at him in disbelief. Are you seriously blaming me? Yes, he shouted. You could have just let it go. You have money, you could have bought another place. I laughed. That's not the point, Joshua. They tried to steal from me. They forged my signature, and you're mad at me? You're selfish, he spat. You always have been. I shook my head. No, Joshua, I just don't let people take advantage of me. In the end, their plan cost them more than they expected. Their reputation was ruined. Friends and family found out what they had done, and suddenly, Joshua wasn't the golden child anymore. As for me, my apartment was still mine, and I finally realized how little my family valued me. But I wasn't angry anymore. I was free, and that was worth more than anything they could have taken. I wish I could say that was the end, my parents embarrassed and legally punished, Joshua finally realizing how ridiculous his sense of entitlement was. But, of course, that wasn't the case. They only escalated. It started with my mom calling me late at night, sounding very upset. Lucas, I just don't understand how you could do this to us, she said, her voice filled with fake distress. Your father can't even go to work without feeling ashamed. Everyone's talking about it. Maybe you should have thought of that before committing fraud, I replied flatly. She gasped as if I had physically hurt her. You're heartless. We're your family. Families are supposed to forgive. Like you did when you sold my apartment behind my back? I shot back. There was silence. Then in a whisper, she said, one day, you'll regret this. And with that, she hung up. That was just the beginning. Then came the excuses. Joshua, clearly emboldened by the fact he faced no consequences, started twisting things. You're making this worse than it is, he scoffed when I ran into him at a family gathering I never wanted to attend. Mom and Dad made a mistake, sure, but do they really deserve all this? I couldn't believe it. Joshua, they committed fraud. Yeah, but it was for me, he said, as if that made everything okay. I took a deep breath. And you don't think that's wrong? He rolled his eyes. You have plenty of money. It's not like you were even living there. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? And there it was. Joshua didn't see anything wrong with what they did because, in his mind, my success wasn't really mine. He thought he was entitled to everything I had just because we were family. That's when I realized, this wouldn't stop unless I made sure it did. The final breaking point came weeks later when I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I picked up. Hello? A voice I instantly recognized slithered through the line. Mr. Brian, the man said. I frowned. Who is this? A quiet laugh. I think we've spoken before. I was the buyer for your old property. My heart skipped a beat. Why was he calling me? What do you want? I asked, my tone cold. Well, he said smoothly, I must say I was quite disappointed with how things turned out. I was promised a great deal, a prime property all wrapped up nicely, but, unfortunately, you interfered. My grip tightened on the phone. Get to the point, I said sharply. I snapped, insight. It seems your parents are still desperate. They reached out to me again, asking if I'd still be interested in buying your property for an even lower price, a quiet deal, so to speak. My stomach dropped. They were still trying to sell my apartment. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Then I managed to ask, and how did you respond? He chuckled. I told them I'd think about it, but I don't like being lied to. The first time they said they had full control over the sale. Now, they're acting like they can negotiate for you when they can't. It's unprofessional. I was furious. They hadn't learned a thing. They weren't sorry. They were just looking for another way to use me. I have one simple question, the man said, his voice sharp. Did you know about this? I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. I know now. Good, he said, because I think it's time someone taught your family a lesson. I leaned forward. What exactly are you suggesting? He laughed quietly. Oh, I think you'll like this. At that moment, I realized this wasn't over. As the call ended, I stood there in my living room, heart pounding with anger and determination. I had always been calm and collected, handling business and personal matters with level-headedness, but what my parents had done, and were still trying to do, had pushed me past my limit. They didn't see me as a person anymore, just a tool they could use for their own gain. I was done letting them get away with it. I wasted no time. First, I called my lawyer to make sure everything was legally sound. I had already reported the situation to the authorities, but I knew if I didn't act quickly, my parents might escape consequences. The buyer's call had been the turning point. It was time to fight back. Next, I contacted the real estate agency that had been involved in the fake sale. I explained everything. The agent was shocked by what she heard, and after listening to me, she agreed to testify against my parents. Her testimony would be solid proof that the whole thing had been planned, but I needed to do more. I had to make sure my parents couldn't manipulate their way out of this. I turned to the media. This wasn't just a personal issue anymore. My parents had tried to commit fraud by selling something that wasn't theirs. Now, it wasn't about money, it was about justice. I wasn't going to let them get away with it. The media reacted quickly. Within days, their names were all over the news. My mom tried to cover it up, claiming it was all a misunderstanding and saying she had only done it for Joshua's sake. But it was too late. Their fall from grace had already begun. With the police now fully involved, the buyer, after being contacted by both my lawyer and the authorities, decided to press charges. My parents were arrested. The real shock came when my mom was convicted of forging my signature. She had gone to extreme lengths to manipulate me, and now she was not only facing legal consequences but also watching her carefully built image crumble. Joshua was furious. When I went to court for one of the hearings, I saw him standing with our parents, surrounded by reporters. He glared at me with hatred. "This is all your fault," he hissed. "You ruined everything. You could have just let it go." I shook my head. Let it go? Forgive them for trying to steal from me? No, Joshua. This was inevitable. His face darkened, his fists clenched. "You'll regret this. You always push people away. One day, you'll wish you still had family." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I had already let go. In the following months, legal battles continued, and my parents faced the consequences of their actions: heavy fines, probation, and a criminal record. I stayed firm, even though it was hard to watch. This wasn't just about the apartment or money. It was about how they had treated me. They thought I would stay silent because I was their son, but they had seriously misjudged me. The most frustrating part came when my mom tried to change the story. Once the court cases were over, she called me one last time, desperate. "Lucas, we understand now. We've learned from this. Can't we just move on? We're family. Don't you want to leave this behind us?" I let the silence stretch before finally answering. "No, Mom," I said firmly. "We're not starting over. Not this time." Then I ended the call. That was the last time I ever spoke to them. They never took responsibility. They never admitted they were wrong. But they did learn a powerful lesson about the cost of betrayal, and so did I. Looking back, I have no regrets about standing my ground. I don't feel sorry for them. The years I spent trapped under their control, burdened by their expectations, are gone. I was never their puppet, never their so-called perfect child. I was my own person, and I would never let them control my life again. So, what do you think, Reddit? Did I go too far? Should I have just let it go and moved on? Or was this the only way to make sure they faced the consequences of what they did? I'd love to hear your thoughts.